Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Applying IBM Deployment Strategies to K-12 Education. My name is Jen Kaplan. I'm a product manager at Jamf, and with me today is John Wetter, Technical Services Manager from Hopkins Public Schools. We are so excited to have John here today, as Hopkins Public Schools is a leader in innovation and the strong implementation of technology. Let's take a look at the agenda. We'll start off by talking about some of the key technology challenges that Hopkins Public Schools addressed over the past few years and the IBM inspiration and the moment they were inspired by IBM to bring some of the key tips from the enterprise into K-12 education. We'll talk a little bit about how John was able to implement change throughout Hopkins Public School District and some of the great outcomes and next steps they have planned. We'll save some time at the end for questions, and let's get started. I'll pass it over to John to talk about goals and challenges.
All right, thanks, Jen. I want to introduce Hopkins Schools a little bit for everyone to give you a little bit of background of the school district and where we're coming from with numbers and what our environment looks like. Hopkins Public Schools is a school district in the western suburbs of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul here in Minnesota. And we're a district of about 7,000 students across the state, across the district. So a good size district, not a huge district, but not also a small district. 9 total schools, with that breakout being 6 elementary schools, 2 junior high schools, and 1 high school. As far as our environment, we have about 3,500 Macs and about 2,800 iOS devices. And certainly that count on the iOS devices is continuing to grow to this day. The demographics of our district, we have 47 different languages being spoken, different language groups. And within our district also we have 2 immersion programs, a Chinese immersion program and a Spanish immersion program. In the classroom, we use all of the tools available to us through Apple and through Jamf. That really being including Apple Classroom app from the teacher side, and Apple School Manager from the IT infrastructure and management side of that app of the equation. We've used Apple Classroom since it was released, and actually a little bit before it was released, and have really been working to get all of our teachers to utilize that in the classroom. Certainly have had some great success with that, as well as our teachers continue to roll that out in the classroom. And this fall we'll be doing even more work with rolling that out to more classrooms. With every one-to-one deployment, the question comes up, why iPad? For Hopkins, it really falls into these categories. First, total cost of ownership. Although there are cheaper devices available on the market, cheaper upfront costs, we really look at the total cost of ownership model for everything that we do in Hopkins, and looking at the cost of the device upfront, the life cycle cost, both managing it as well as supporting it, and then at the end of that life cycle, the value retained in the device or the cost of disposal of the device. We really see that iPads hold their value. That total cost of ownership is a wash with any other device available on the market, which really brings that discussion back to the teaching and learning department, where it belongs, to decide what direction to go with the device. It's certainly easy to use. iOS, is a very intuitive operating system for both adults as well as our student learners. And, that is certainly one of those key pieces of how much professional development do you have to put into it on the staff side of it, and how quickly are students going to be able to adopt and adapt to the new technology. The other big piece that we look at is media. What does the media look like for those students, being able to really create rich content, rich lessons being presented by staff members to make that much more immersive and engaging for our students. And as well as robust management, the ability that Jamf Pro provides for us to manage the devices the way the teachers want them to be managed in their classroom and really make that experience as transparent as possible is really key to a successful deployment, as well as really, being successful in the classroom, which is what this is all about. So our department really looks at service differently, I think, from the way a lot of K-12s have traditionally thought about this. We look at all of class, one of our number one goals is the technology is ready in the classroom day one, period. Having that technology there and ready to go is important. We do not feel that we can ask our teachers to embed technology and really almost require them to embed technology in every lesson plan if we're not going to have that technology there and available for every lesson. So for us, it's important to have that there ready to go on day one. That is the entire system of making that technology integrated and seamless throughout the classroom. The other pieces we really look at is providing world-class support anytime, anywhere. Our staff and our students are all around the world at any given day, whether they're in the classroom in our building or they are working with our sister school in China. We need to be able to support them. And that's how we look at what our role is in the technology department, is making sure we can meet them at their skill level, their needs, their physical location, in a cost-effective, timely, and secure manner. And really, for us, it's about delivering awesome as a service, making sure that is there, ready to roll, no matter what. We want everyone to have a really good experience. Some of the challenges to that we look at is, first of all, how do you measure success? Certainly that's a big topic in education in general. How do you measure success? Which right now, the discussion revolves around the standardized testing. But how do you really look at more of those formative assessments and understand how students are doing in the classroom? From the technology side of it, how do we understand how we're really supporting people versus, just numbers on a page? How do we look at that for staffing, measuring success? Something other than just the form of a ticket resolution time. How do we look at actually helping people and making sure that we're doing that instead of it just being a race to close tickets? That's really what we look at and try to fix here. Staffing, how do we have people available when they're needed? Where do we have people? What times do we have people there? How does that work? I mentioned earlier, we have 47 language groups in our schools. We have 2 immersion programs. How do we provide support in native languages for those learners? So that's a challenge that we certainly look at. Of course, manual deployment. How do you work to deploy devices? How do you actually physically get those devices out to students and to staff efficiently, effectively, so that they feel supported and are ready to be successful in the classroom? And of course, we need to deliver all of that on time and under budget. Budget limitations, of course, are a very real thing in K-12. We are lucky at Hopkins to be well supported by our community, but still, you have to be good stewards of the community's money that they're providing to the school district, and we want to make sure we provide a great service for that budget. In 2015, it was a really interesting presentation to see IBM talk about the Mac at IBM with Fletcher Previn presenting that to the conference. And seeing how they developed better tools, how they really looked at engaging their support folks and really, making that service be number one. really inspired me. I had been thinking about that for a while and how to do that, but seeing that really happen and that IBM just did it inspired me to say, we can do this too. This is not just a unique thing to them, and that we can roll this out in K-12. There's not anything unique about us that would stop us from doing that. So if a corporation like IBM can be agile, deploy Apple and increase employee satisfaction, why can't we? So that started our journey in how to look at how we could do that ourselves. And it all starts with support. It's really making sure people feel supported. It's making sure that our customers, whether those be staff, students, community members, anyone who's interacting with our technology systems, that they feel supported and feel confident that they can complete their tasks or complete what they're there to do. And that's what really it's all about at the end of the day. So we have to come up with a new definition of success. It's not closing a ticket on a certain amount of time. It's seeing the students, staff, and teachers as customers, shifting the way we measure success, defining our KPIs, the key performance indicator, to something that does not lead to just that race to close a ticket, but really leads to providing this best support possible for our community that we're interacting with. And that's really what it's all about. It's making it about the service instead of a timeline, measuring the satisfaction instead of the speed at which you're resolving tickets. We've had great success with this. We started out, with certainly some concern in saying, how do I measure this? Oftentimes in tech support, we do see people at their worst. It's someone who's coming that's frustrated, something's not working, they need help with it, and how you as a technician turn that frustration around to make that a positive experience is what we're in this for. So this last year we've been measuring success straight up through the customer satisfaction or CSAT scores, and we've been able to retain a 95th percentile through the end of the year here. We're now well above 90. The entire year we're above 95%. We actually ended the school year in June with a 96.098% satisfaction score average. So certainly seeing great strides in that, and really I think speaking to our staff being able to adapt to this new performance indicator and making sure that our staff are supported. The other piece we have to look at is, of course, building the human side of the infrastructure. Making sure that our staff are ready to go from the technology staff. When we do new staff hiring, we make sure that they're ready to go with our systems. And this change is really from both our hiring practices as well as how we get staff onboarded and ready to go in the district. From our hiring practice standpoint, we really start out with making sure we have people who are good communicators, people who can show empathy for end users and making sure that they're ready, that they're there to help, making sure end users know they're going to get the help that they need until this technology issue is resolved. And that's what we hire on first. As we can teach the technical pieces, certainly if folks have a technical background, it's great, but we're much more about finding folks who are going to be great communicators and really great support people, and then we can train on the tech side of it. And that's what we've been doing. We also look at flexible scheduling, really making sure that our staff are spread out across the district as there's need. Right now, it's much more of a flex. Where do we have the number of students? Where do we have the number of staff? We're watching support incidences. If we have a certain site where all of a sudden we have more support incidents come in, we can move our workforce a little bit to help better support those users. Our old model had a tech per building, and as our district changes over time, we're seeing different buildings, even just the elementary schools, seeing some of them being almost twice as large as some of the other elementaries. So the whole one person per building model just doesn't fit anymore. And making sure that we have that in contracts and set up from a personnel standpoint is important to do that. Then when we hire new folks, making sure to onboard them with plenty of time to familiarize themselves with the tech. Right now, we do any hiring, if we know that we're going to be having an open position, we do our hiring in the spring so that that tech can be onboarded and be part of our team throughout the entire summer. As we're doing new hiring, we're making all of our tech staff be year-round, which in K-12 is a unique piece, as many times in K-12 the tech staff are maybe out the door a week after the staff are out the door and back in maybe a week ahead of staff. And that makes it really difficult to be prepared and ready for that, to be successful in those first days of school. Really making sure that teachers and students feel successful, is important. So teachers and students need content and support when it makes sense in the classroom, not when IT can provide it. And that statement, I think, really stands right by itself in saying this is not about when IT is available to help in the classroom. This is about empowering our teachers, empowering our students so that their classroom lessons can be delivered when it makes sense for that classroom and not needing to wait for IT to be a part of every decision or every content delivery happening. Being culturally responsive is certainly important in all aspects of support. That's what helps provide a good, engaging support structure, is making sure that you're culturally responsive. You understand where people are at. Being able to support them in their native languages is very important. That's probably going to be one of our next hires, is hiring a multilingual person. I know in our last applicant pool, we had several multilingual techs as well, and that's the direction that we're certainly going. It's just so critical that we're able to do that. And that really comes up in our immersion classrooms. For instance, in our Chinese immersion school, students and teachers don't have any classroom interaction in English until 5th grade, which is an important part of that immersion program. But it certainly presents technology challenges. For instance, if the teacher is having some sort of a technology issue in the classroom, to actually talk to a tech in English, they have to step out in the hallway, have a conversation, and then the tech has to come into the room and essentially silently then come in and fix the issue, which provides a lot of challenges in the classroom in making sure that we're able to provide that great support. So that's something that we are looking at actively in our hiring practices. During our iPad deployments in our schools, we actually bring in interpreters. We have interpreters that are ready to go to make sure families feel very comfortable with what's going on. We provide our forms in multiple languages and have those available throughout the night. We also coordinate transportation with the Metro Transit to make sure that we can get as many parents and as many parents there with their students as we possibly can. When possible, we customize SelfService to have that available in another language as well. Certainly, we have a couple things to work on here. We're going definitely the right direction, though, and certainly there's more to come with SelfService here in future Jamf Pro releases as well. And I definitely look forward to that. Here you can see an example of one of the apps that we deploy in our Xinjiang Chinese Immersion Academy. What this is a pinyin learning app as seen in SelfService. So this is what's helping students learn. They're learning their words, learning the kind of the alphabet in a sense, as I guess we would refer to it as. So that's really what we're looking at, this is the official Romanized version of the Chinese language. And in self-service, you can still see we have those couple pieces, where the install button and the app, but we're certainly working on that to make that work even better. Another important piece for IT is automating human tasks. How can we automate things that, people then don't need to do? I think that's the great promise of technology, right? Is to automate those easy things so that humans aren't needing to spend time on that, and we can really be spending our time helping people, something that people are good at and machines are not that good at yet. So we have this automated task of permission slips. So looking at this, basically what we have it look at is a parent signs a permission slip, and that's basically just a Google form. There's reading through it and saying, yes, I agree to this, signing their name at the bottom. That Google form then triggers the Jamf API, which Jamf Pro then picks up and approves the device for provisioning, and the student receives the provisioned device. So that's something that we actively do for all of our device deployments, and it's really about having these better tools in place so that those tasks are being taken care of automatically, and our staff can help better serve people. Here's a look at the permission slip form. As you can see, this is just the user agreement, the principles of the program, why we're doing it, what your responsibilities as a student are. Then you actually, fill out the user agreement, and that is then submitted, and that's what kicks off the entire process of being able to have that device deployed. As far as deployments go themselves, we talked about a little bit about just the flexible deployment tailored to each school, whether it's deploying apps or working with the students in the Apple Classroom, making sure that that's all ready to go. Making sure that we can get all those devices out to students is important, and there again, being flexible about what that deployment looks like is critical to that, and automating as many of those tasks as possible. Looking at the deployments, certainly the list of things that we do are pretty typical for a deployment. Making sure that they're ready to go in Apple Classroom. How do you get content delivered? How do you do app deployment? Applying restrictions and enabling lost mode should you need to do that. Because as most of us know, a lost iPad is not usually lost. It's actually probably sitting at the bottom of a locker somewhere. So really having all of those tools available and having that automated, that they're all just set up, is really important to making that go. That's what Jamf really helps us do, is having the flexibility of those small groups, being able to make groups out of iPads or out of users, however is needed to happen. So taking a look really at some of our results. The results: strong customer satisfaction, better tech and better learning experiences, empowered employees and engaged parents, engaged students. Really helps, save time. And when you can save time through automation, that just feeds right back into the beginning of that, where your staff have more time available to be helping people, to there again increase that customer satisfaction even more, because you're getting those rudimentary tasks out of the way by automating them. So Jamf Pro really helps us do that, along with the Apple technology, to make all these steps happen, to there again provide an outstanding experience. In Hopkins, the last couple of years, we've had great success with deploying all of our devices. But even at 2 years ago, by the day 3 after adapting many of these changes, we had 93% of iPads deployed by day 3 of school. Which is an outstanding number, and we continue to improve that number every year since then. So it really, I think, is a testament to our staff. It is a testament to the technology. It's a testament to the work that we can do when we're working together to make these iPads available from day one in the classroom. Many of our neighbors, when we hear at different conferences, there are districts I know around us that don't get all the technology out in the classrooms until maybe 3 weeks into school. And there again, we just look at that question of how do you make it an expectation for teachers to deliver rich media content and engaging lessons when you don't have that technology available every day as well. So those are the pieces we look at and some of the successes that we've been able to deliver upon. In getting those devices out, we peak out at about 500 devices per hour being deployed. And, that's something that allows, Jamf Pro allows us to do. We were able to properly scale Jamf Pro to do that, along with making sure our local infrastructure is in place, our wireless systems, and staffing to make that happen. So, if you're going to dedicate the budget to a rollout or to these devices, it's incumbent upon all of us, I think, to make sure that that's a successful outcome that we see in the classroom. So what we learned, K-12 can learn from enterprise and vice versa. I mean, it's sometimes we get into our silos of what vertical we're in the market, and we forget that folks over in the commercial side of the world, as well as the education side of the world, are really dealing with a lot of the same challenges, and we can learn from each other and make sure that we're all doing better. Time and numbers are not always the best measure. Certainly we've seen that. We saw that with the Mac at IBM program, and really reimagining how you measure success was so important to our environment. Rethinking the human side of infrastructure. It's easy to look at the technical side of infrastructure, but making sure the human side is there with that flexibility of staffing, with your hiring process, and with how you onboard your staff, making sure all of those are in place, that really goes a long way. For automation, when in doubt, API. Make sure that you are automating as many of those tasks as you possibly can. The robustness of the API is there in Jamf Pro, so use it. That's one of the last thoughts I can leave you with there. So overall, again, from a technology standpoint, that's what we work to do, is to deliver awesome as a service.
That was great. Thank you, John. For those who aren't familiar with Jamf or Jamf Pro, at Jamf, we help organizations succeed with Apple. We embrace the native Apple technology experience consumers have come to know and love, and we've offered 0-day support for all Apple releases for over a decade, supporting new operating systems and features from Apple the day they're available. With a focus on end-user empowerment, Jamf Pro automates common IT tasks and gives users the ability to set up and support their own devices. We really focus on the areas of zero-touch deployments, robust device configuration, app management, inventory, security, and for that end-user empowerment, the ability to offer a self-service app catalog for end users. At Jamf, we've been focused on Apple ecosystem management for over 15 years. We have deep roots in and commitment to K-12 and higher education, and we manage over 5 million devices for more than 5,000 education institutions. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Jamf Pro or how you can leverage some of those Mac at IBM strategies in your own environment, head over to jamf.com and click on the Contact Us link. Provide us your information and we'll contact you to talk a little bit about your environment, best practices, or even how to unlock the power of Apple's latest education features like Classroom and Apple School Manager. Also, don't forget to check out our latest free ebook, 5 Apple EDU Trends. We walk through some of the latest Apple technology, including managed Apple TV and how your school can take advantage of all of the new features, as well as what are some of the areas that you may want to consider to get the most success out of your environment. And we also recommend to head over to Jamf Nation, where 50,000 admin member community every day discussing the latest updates to Apple, Jamf Pro, troubleshooting tips, success stories, question and answer, whether you are a Jamf customer or you're just looking at Jamf, or maybe you're just getting into the world of Apple ecosystem management or Apple technology. The community is robust and active, and whether you have a question or a comment, there will always be someone there to answer you. And if you're interested in attending an Apple Admin Conference live, think about heading over to Jamf Nation October 24th through 26th here in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Hyatt Regency. You can register, just search Jamf Nation User Conference 2017 or head over to jamf.com and you'll see a link to head over to the registration page. It's the largest gathering of Apple administrators worldwide, and we hope to see you there in person. Well, thank you very much to John for talking us through their deployment strategies today, and thank you for attending today's webinar.